He will be talking about the book and the version he has of it, what has happened in the context of Russia-Ukraine relations. He was commissioned in Pakistan Army in 1985 and climbing through the ranks, retired as brigadier in 2015. Later he worked as Fauji Fertilizers in Kassan Limited, and currently he is the CEO of an oil company. He keeps a keen eye on domestic and international affairs, and sir, with that, podium is yours. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished Council General of Russia, Excellencies, speakers on the podium, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I promise you, like my introduction, I'm going to be very brief with you. And I'm going to take on the subject focusing on only two factors. Any book written cannot be even thought of it without going into who is the writer. So this writer of this book, presently Dr. Muhammad EHSAN, we date back to our association 1981. 1981, as a junior cadet, 2 years, then as a gentleman cadet, we were promoted from junior to gentleman. So 2 years more. And in 1985, we passed out together. And here I would like to mention our passing out mentor, General Heather. He was the one who gave us the second lieutenant rank, being in the helm of affairs. During our stay of 4 years, we were 319 including me. And out of these 319, after 4 years of our get-together, we enlist then young Muhammad EHSAN in the first 25 of the course. Muhammad EHSAN was, in the golden days, he was young, highly equipment, smart, energetic, very high in the uptake, and last but not the least, he was blunt and he was very straightforward. The quality which still exists in his personality. In 1995, we started off our journey and we were rolling down seas and deserts and the forest from north to south, south to north, east to west. And we had our own life. I was disengaged. It is only that about 10, 12 years back, we got into a reuniting phase here in Karachi with the courtesy of Colonel Butt, who is also sitting here luckily. And I categorically saw three things after interacting with the writer. Number one, and by the way, these three things were told to me once I was in a growing age and reached the level of maturity. My father, in his own language, my mother language, he told me these things. So first of all, I'll tell you what my father said, and then I will elaborate a little. The first and the foremost thing, which today is very common, ghabrana nahi hai. So my father told me, putra ghabrayi na. And he wanted to say that successful people are fearless. They fight through their fears and they are not scared of their failures. So this was the first teaching and the first sentiment after reading him that I found in his personality. Number two, mand ke rakhi. My father told me, and now I am translating it for you, don't care what people will say, because people's minds changes on daily basis. Your opinions are flickered, not allowed your life to be driven what others are saying. The third one is Zakham lage te tamina. Meaning that if you have suffered a setback, now don't get down. And he, in his own words, which I described later on once I have got the equivalent of some languages, he wanted to say go by your own will, your own objectives, your own desires, your own decisions, your own passion, your own ideas and ideals. Never downgrade your ideas or objectives in the moment of being pinched or being in a moment of weakness. Ultimately, he converted all this by saying, some defeat cannot defeat you till the time you don't accept the defeat. And this is the lesson which I wanted to give it to the young generation in front of me. Remember, it's not the defeats. It's moralizing effect, demoralizing effects, which really makes you conceive the defeat, and thereafter there is no victory in your life. Now this was part number one. The part two is the book itself. My elders and my previous speakers, they have already gone into the histories unfolding their own vision inside and talking about it. Once I started reading this book, the first chapter of the book was an ultimate. It really gives me a deep thinking that what the President of Russia, Mr. Putin, had said, it is almost there in everybody's life. You appreciate brother against brother, brothers against sister, mom against son, son against pop, family versus family, tribe versus tribe, country versus country, region versus region. So everybody has got the right to protect himself. So there was nothing wrong, as the speaker had said. I'm sure the president must have got an insight of all the options, diplomatic and otherwise, and then applied the correct one, which was timely required for his integrity of his own country, for the sovereignty of his own country. Thereafter, the book chapters, they pedal down through various incidents, various quotes, and it comes to an end. I started off from page 1, and with little interruption here and there, I read the complete book, of course skipping few paras which was not of my interest. But then it was all focused reading of this book, and I very, very deeply, or may I say from the bottom of my heart, I would like and congratulate my 42 years buddy who is now become a thinker, a writer, and what they said, there was another one, philosopher, scholar. So he has become a scholar. And my first impression in the academic conclusion was that he is going to be a success. Today, he has made this batch of 1071st, from where we belong, from where we originate, very proud of him. The book is worth reading, and therefore I'll request all the young lot to at least purchase a book for yourself. And along with this, I would also like to make 50 book purchase for my own course and to be given to various libraries, so that the younger generation should ponder upon and think deep inside and make their own judgment for the days to come. Ladies and gentlemen, and my very speakers, thank you very much for your attention.
Introduction of Dr. EHSAN Unmarketer. So we are delighted to have the author with us, and he will be sharing his thought and what exactly his conclusion related to the book are all about. So sir, kindly join us and invite another student. Thank you.
Honorable Consul General, all the staff from the Russian consulate, the honorable guests, and more importantly, all the students, my students who are here, welcome and Assalamu alaikum. The more time I take to speak now, I think I'll be eating into the time of the Consul General that I am more, every one of us are more interested to know about directly from him, his point of view on this most important, critical event that is going on in the world. But I would just like to go through certain things that I picked up as the speakers were talking about. Colonel Bhatt started by saying and quoting about how Putin has made a statement that you can either be a sovereign or you can be a colony. And again, from the perspective that you look at it, the West wants us to look at it as a great invasion that has taken place. A country's sovereignty has been underrun. But me, since I am a little biased and I believe in the concept of Putinism, call me Putinist, but still, I think if you look at the sovereignty itself, it's self-governance. And if we look at the history of Ukraine, we will find out that it is maybe not self-governing itself. And it has been forced to do what it is doing, and there has been a regime change there. And we are very familiar in how many regimes have been changed over a period of time in various places in the world. So that is that. Then General Mohammed spoke about the 21st century and the challenges that are there. And I think both Russia and China have been declared as the greatest geopolitical threat of 21st century, and obviously 21st century has been termed as an Asian century. And if the entire emphasis of the great superpower that is US is to move on and come to this area, Asia Pacific, then that is going to threaten the two land powers that are here, that is China and Russia. And if you are threatened, you are at risk. And when you are at risk, you need to do something about it. And if you have a look at the two things that are highlighted pretty much in my book are the geopolitical disruptions and the predatory geopolitics. Both of them are phrases that I picked up. They're not my own phrases. I picked them up and I have elaborated them in how the geopolitical disruption is taking place. The more military machines come here in this area, Asia Pacific, there will be more geopolitical disruption. And predatory geopolitics is all about how Russia has been provoked to do things that it might end up doing. I'm not talking about how this crisis might eventually end up, but it might just be provoked to continue to do what it might do in its self-defense and fighting for its honor and for its prestige. Imtiaz Gulsab, he very kind of him to have made it come all the way from Islamabad. I'm personally very honored. He mentioned about Putinism, and I think when I think about Putinism, I think anybody who thinks about Putin or Xi Jinping or Lee Kuan Yew or any great leader that this 21st century or 20th century has produced, you need to have some kind of interest in the art of leadership. And two things that I think about when I think about great leaders. The first thing is that what is it that you hold as the greatest and the most important thing for yourself as a leader? Which is that asset? I'm sure Putin doesn't hold the oil and gas reserves as his greatest asset. His greatest asset is his people. And it is for them. You know, eventually when USSR got disintegrated, one fine morning most of the Russians woke up and they saw that there were no more Russians. And it is that diaspora. It is these people who are there in the 15 independent republics who are a great concern of President Putin. And Donbass and other regions that have now been declared by Putin constitutionally as belonging to him is because the people there want to associate with Russia. It's a great debate and questionable how many, for how long and how it will be decided, but that is how he looks at them. The second thing that Imtiaz Gulsab mentioned was about special military operations. when I have investigated and decided, I found out you cannot call it an invasion and you cannot get away with this in a very rule-bound world, in an international order that has been created by US itself. Russians and the Chinese consider that this order rather serves them more than it serves them. So there will be a lot of legal things involved and there will be a lot of repercussions that have to be avoided, and maybe that's the reason that he called them special operations. And then he also talked about a quote, he made a reference to that about how Putin is so peculiar about the history. I personally think that it is not a man's nature, it is a man's history. It is not a state's nature, it is the state's history. Putin is very peculiar about that, and he really thinks that Russia has its vulnerability. We all know how it has been invaded. It was invaded by Napoleon, it was invaded by the Germans, not once, twice. Japanese, there have been issues. And Russia has been fighting a war, not through military machines. Yes, everybody fights it through military machines, but more than that, it is the depth, Russian depth, that has always guaranteed its security. Being a land power, obviously we know that most of the republics have joined NATO and they become part of European Union, but this was the red line. Ukraine was its red line. It has been re-emphasizing it and saying all over again, and a speaker mentioning how St. Petersburg or Moscow has become so close. So we must really, in geopolitical terms, know about the buffer zones, about the depth and all these very important aspects. Right now, two great powers, China and India, are still locked in a conflict up in the Himalayas in that region. And there we have the buffer between the Tibetan border, the McMahon line between India and the Tibet. And China has Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim and these places as the buffer between itself and India. And there are skirmishes taking place. Great powers always need buffers. They don't want the other great power sitting right on its border and threatening it. The book is, anybody who would like to read this book, it is one-sided. It gives the Russian point of view. We are all exposed too much to the Western world, to their propaganda, to their way of thinking that I think at times is imposed on us. So for me it was a great challenge, and I would like to admit here, if I had not taught these subjects as and taken lectures and discussed them with my students, I would not have developed this idea of ultimately sitting down and giving it the shape of the book. So I would be particularly very thankful to the students for providing me this opportunity to speak to them on the subject, ask very interesting questions, and force me to write something which I think eventually will benefit everybody. I will not take much more time. I would like to thank everybody who is here, who have come here and encouraged me for this very small little effort that I have put in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So we have been waiting to hear now, so he must be called the superstar of the panel. So, sir, His Excellency Consul General of Russian Federation, Andrei Viktorovich Fedorov, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say that it's a great honor and a big privilege for me to be here to address such nice people. I always say when you can see such nice faces of youngsters, you understand that the country has future. So I see such faces in this auditorium. Dear experts, generals, friends, and now I can say friends, because this is my second time when I'm serving in Karachi, and I love the city very much, and I was feeling really excited when my minister told me that I'm coming back to this city of lights. So, dear friends, first of all, I'd like to say a few words about the book. I would like to thank my friends, Dr. EHSAN, for paying attention to these important issues like Russian-Ukrainian crisis. The book provides detailed information about the causes of the Ukrainian crisis, in which United States and its allies play an active role in fomenting it, and also notes the colonial policy of the West in many developing countries. The beginning of the work is dedicated to the Ukrainian crisis and how my president decided to vigorously act on two fronts. The first is the special military operation in Ukraine, and the second is struggle against the Western order of the so-called liberal internationalism, which favors only the interests of the United States and some European allies. The author draws attention to the logical actions of my president, expressed by the need to comply with the national interests of my country. It's emphasized that the world order was determined by the empires that created it, and the logic of this unjust world order was built on power, both racial domination, colonial exploitation, and Western imperialism. I would like to say that the heart of the matter of this crisis is the colonial policy of these countries. Nothing has changed. Many years of their history proves us that the basement of their wealthiness, the basement of their progress is piracy and robbery. If you look deep into the history of the UK, of other European countries, you can see they earned their first, middle, and latest money robbing other peoples. And this is their nature. They built their empires on racism, piracy, and exploitation of other peoples. I would like to see where they were in history if they follow law, if they didn't create the laws which gives them idea that they can rob other peoples and countries. Look at the United Kingdom, such a small country on the map. How they built the empire? Racism, racism, and racism. You know, when I'm on service more than 25 years, and of course I served in the army, like my friend and respected general said, but I only lieutenant, so, and I spent 2 years in paratroopers in Soviet times. You see, when I was speaking to British diplomats, American diplomats, they were very good in camouflaging their nature. But sometimes I faced this exceptionalism, snobism, and many times I had to correct their attitude to young diplomats. And of course I was a young diplomat like my colleagues here. Many times correcting them that, you know, Russia is not your colony base, and you are not allowed to speak like that. Yesterday I was a guest on the reception, Qatar, and one Western diplomat, she is a lady, it was a very strange behavior. She was very open-hearted, but at the same time she started saying, how much time I should spend here, when it is finished, what is the procedure? I cannot spend much of my time being here. I have my other affairs. I said, listen, you are invited, you are a guest. No, I shouldn't spend much of my time on being here. you were like that. I won't name the country, but so this is their real attitude to you, to us, and this is the real cornerstone of the problem, of the conflict. You know, these guys, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and I'm saying on these words when my heart is bleeding, because Soviet Union is my country. I spent more than 20 years living in Soviet Union, and I know very well what was the country, with all its minuses, but with all its huge, serious pluses. It was the country which first time in the history decided to educate people free of charge, to guarantee them health care free of charge, to guarantee them houses free of charge, and a lot of social securities. The collapse of Soviet Union created an idea that these people can dictate rules. They create rules. They never say about international law. They created rules. Who are these people who gave them right to create rules? Where all these rules mentioned? Please show me the international document, UN documents, plus other paper where other countries agreed to live on their rules. Where these rules are formulated. We know about UN Charter, the basement of international law. I never saw even one rule. They change the rules and they think that everything good for the West is the rule. They're not thinking about other peoples, about other countries. Never. They can smile to you, but at the same time, simultaneously, they put hands into your pockets to take all the money. With a nice smile and perfect English, and well behaved and manners and good suits. That's their suits are good. I can admit this. They had this idea. They started reverse of their colonial policy. What they're doing? They say they might have cap price for oil, cap price for gas. Then they will say cap price for foodstuff, for anything other countries produce, because they should take it. This is for them, not for us. When Pakistan want to purchase oil, they say, first where? Gas? How come? You could receive gas from Iran easily. Where is the pipeline? They do not allow it. Sanctions. You want to purchase gas from Qatar and send it to Lahore. Where is this pipeline? Lahore, Karachi. The first agreement was signed in 2015. What happened to your honorable Prime Minister when he decided to reverse the agreement in Kremlin? So they need this gas, they need this oil from Gulf countries. They do not want your country to progress, and they are fond of idea of dictating how we should live. You should accept all their values. It goes without saying. You cannot say, you see, we want to live like we want. No, this is not allowed. These people afraid of the word of truth, and honorable author and my friend tried to explain to Pakistani people how he sees the situation in Ukraine. I will say a few words how it started and how it is progressing. I think there will be a lot of critical articles in newspapers that you dare to explain people your point of view. And it is not coinciding with the West. approach to this situation. So, thank you very much for nice book. I'm reading it. I can say that I completed it, but I'm in process. And thanks my people who presented me the book. I will take it home when I complete my mission. So, I hope this is not the last one. And I hope we will see many books on the results of this crisis. And the result of the crisis can be only one. I have no doubt. It will be a total victory of my country. A new world order, not based on these rules, but based on the international law. So, what about Ukraine? You please kindly understand that everything happened after the illegal coup, which was sponsored by Western countries, and now they are admitting it openly. They are not camouflaging their ideas and not camouflaging their thoughts. They decided that they have right to overthrow the country. They did. Many civilians died. Then people in some regions of Ukraine, and I cannot say about diaspora, the Russian diaspora in Ukraine. This is not correct. This is half of the country. 20 million people in Ukraine are Russians. And they never belonged before the socialist revolution to Ukraine. It was the empire. Only Bolsheviks presented some lands to create a Ukraine. And when Ukrainians say that they were struggling against Soviet Union, they were a founder of Soviet Union. They were for republics who signed an agreement to create Soviet Union in 1922. And they should praise Lenin and Stalin, who presented them lands. More than half of the territory were presented by Russians to them. And some territories came to them as a result of Second World War, as a compensation to Soviet Union for victims. And please kindly not forget that we lost 27 million people in this war. Half of them were civilians, executed by Germans. Please think about these figures. So, the first act of a so-called new government in Ukraine was prohibition of Russian language. Can you imagine that tomorrow morning there will be a coup and the new government will say, now you speak French? What would you do? Who first used military forces against civilians? Ukrainian government. As a result, Crimea said, we don't want to live with such nationalistic country, we go home. Because Crimea went to Ukraine only in 1954. By the illegal act of Khrushchev, there was no referendum in Soviet Union. It was his personal decision. Why? There are several ideas of that. The first thing, and I follow this idea, I'm a historian by my first education. This is what I am thinking about the situation. That he wanted people in Ukraine to forget his leadership in repressions during 1930s. And he made this present to Ukrainian people. So people in Crimea always wanted the Russians. Always. And they did. I have to remind you that only one person was shot during this operation and during this referendum when Crimea went to Russia. One person. Practically all police officers, practically all Ukrainian soldiers now serving in Russian army. They didn't go to Ukraine. They wanted to be a part of Russia, and they did. What was the reaction of West? Unbelievable. They forgot about Kosovo, President. They forgot about South Sudan. They forgot about Eritrea. They forgot about Eastern Timor. So these people People have right to live how they want. But if you want to go to Russia and live with Russians, you are not allowed. Who you are, I mean, who Russians are to have some rights. I would like to remind you that in Europe, there are countries where passports of non-citizens are existing. It's Estonia and Latvia. What is, I can call it racism, Nazism, or whatever, officially, there are non-resident passports, non-citizen passports. Russians are not allowed to receive education in Russian, not allowed to go on civil service, not allowed to serve in the army, not allowed to vote. Can you give me ideas about this liberal Europe? So, after all, I won't tell you the whole story of the Ukrainian crisis, but this was the first part. The second, as honorable generals and experts said, we cannot tolerate the security issues. We knew about plans to deploy nuclear weapons on the territory of Ukraine. To understand the situation, you have to understand the geography. If NATO missiles will be deployed in Ukraine, they need 4 minutes to reach Moscow. You have no time to intercept it. How do you think we would tolerate this situation? And as our experts said, they didn't want to give us guarantees not to deploy troops, not to deploy nuclear weapons, and not to threaten my country. It is a paper, just a sheet of paper to be signed. No. Why it's like that? Because they're greedy. They want to control the resources. They want to come and take resources. Because they are tired to pay for gas, for oil, for other things, for metals, for wood. They decided that they can take it. All this stuff. Why should they pay to those Russians? Come on. Who they are? And they were surprised that we decided not to be tolerant to this policy. So I can take much of your time. I can speak hours and hours because my heart is bleeding because of this crisis, and civilians and soldiers are dying. Of course, the crisis will be fixed with our victory. The new order will be implemented. I mean, order on new agreements in Europe. But the last thing I want to say, how can we trust these people? Remember the words of Merkel about these Minsk agreements. We signed it to prepare Ukrainian army. We didn't want peace. We needed that time to prepare Ukrainian army to attack Russia. So when we are thinking about agreements, we should think, where are the guarantees? How can we guarantee our security? How can we guarantee the rights of Russians living in other countries? To abolish the system of non-citizen passports, to protect their right to educate children in Russian language. What is the problem with language? 4 languages in Switzerland, 2 languages in Canada, 2 languages in Finland. Russians are not allowed. I never received answer to this question when I am speaking to foreign diplomats. Some of them agree, some say yes, it's not good. So if it is not good, correct. No, you understand. I say I don't understand. Please kindly tell me what should I understand. So, and the last thing, I want to say that we are watching the direction of Pakistan, and Pakistan is a real friend. The foreign policy of Pakistan is really smart. We appreciate all the messages sent by the foreign minister, by the prime minister. We appreciate the attitude of Pakistan to the crisis. And as a result, we understand who are the real friends of Russia. And I understand the future of Pakistan. Now, thank you very much. Thank you.